Hello everyone and welcome back to Crime Rush. I'm Inga and thank you so much for clicking on this video. How's everybody doing? I had a really great day today. My family and I went to the beach, and if you have not seen South Africa's beaches, you are missing out. It's beautiful. I always feel super blessed to be South African and to live here when I go to the beach. And we just had an awesome day as a family there. But now I'm getting ready to ruin your day with another true crime story. And this time we are going to be talking about Wade Wilson, also known as the Deadpool Killer, only because they share the same name. Deadpool's name is Wade Wilson. But Wade Wilson is, let's just say, really special. So I was actually thinking of doing a really long video where I was going to tell you the story of Wade Wilson and then also add in the interrogation. But I decided that that's going to be a bit too much. So I'm actually going to split this into two. The first video, which is this video, will be me telling you the story about Wade Wilson and all of the heinous crimes that he committed. And the second video that I will do on this will be about me sort of dissecting the interrogation and discussing that with you. And listen, I just have to add this. Something that I found so interesting about this case is that the women are going wild over Wade Wilson. They are just like, oh my goodness, he's so hot. He's so beautiful. I'm even seeing justice for Wade. I mean, what's going on with the women of today? I mean, I guess it's not only the women of today, because if you think about it, Ted Bundy and Richard Ramirez and all of that had these fangirls. But I'm just thinking, he's a murderer. He is woman, and I'm sorry, I don't get it. And I can see he's attractive. Okay, I see he's got a good face and all of that. And I know women are into the bad boy thing. But listen, girls, that gets old really, really fast, because when you are married and you have kids, that's definitely not someone you want by your side. And when you get to the phase in life where I'm at, you start to realize that that's not hot. That's actually so not hot, because when you settle down and you get married and you have kids, you don't want a man like that by your side. You want someone responsible, someone you can count on, and that's not it. He's not it. And I have a husband who is amazing. And when I see him do the dishes, then I'm like, that's hot. Or if he fetches our son or spends time with our son, I'm like, so sexy. That's what's good looking later in life, girls. So just keep that in mind and check your taste buds. And if you are finding yourself lusting after Wade Wilson, I would suggest you take a good look in the mirror, and you definitely need to do some soul searching. But let's move on and dive into today's case. But before we do, please note that this content is intended for mature audiences only, and that I get all my information from online sources. You can very easily do the same thing and form your own opinion. Wade Wilson was born on the 20th of May, 1994 in Tallahassee, Florida. And he had a rocky start in life. His biological mom actually gave birth to him when she was only 14 years old, and his biological father was 15 at the time. And as you can imagine, they couldn't offer baby Wade much at that point in their lives, so they put him up for adoption. And a family that was actually close to his biological mom's parents at church ended up adopting Wade. And that was the Wilson family, and they already had 2 daughters, so Wade gained 2 sisters. And at first, everything seemed to be going so well. Wade was sociable, he did so well in school. And then all of a sudden, around the age of 13, there was a sudden flip in Wade's personality. And Wade became super paranoid. He was worried about everything. He didn't want to leave the house. It was like he had instantly gone from being extremely extroverted to extremely introverted. He also started displaying some violent tendencies. He also developed some serious delusions and started doing strange things around the house reportedly due to his beliefs. And at one point, it has been reported that he believed there were aliens coming for him and his family, and he would do strange things around the house to keep his family safe and even keep the curtains closed, because he believed that people or the aliens were looking in because they wanted to come in and hurt them. So this was just bizarre to his family, and it was like it came out of nowhere. So at this point, his adoptive parents realized that something is seriously wrong with Wade and they need to get him some professional help. And when I tried to dig in a little bit deeper and see what sort of help they got him, I couldn't seem to find anything. The only thing I could find was that they said that whatever the help was that they got him didn't seem to help him at all. In fact, it seemed like nothing they did helped Wade at all. But then Wade, with all of his paranoia and delusions, decided that he wanted to try and self-medicate with illegal substances. And I think most of us know that mixing those two, illegal substances with mental health issues, never a good thing. That is a toxic combination. But hey, at this point, Wade is still a child. He is confused, he is angry, he is delusional, and on top of that, he's making some really bad life choices. And by the way, this is all taking place while he is only 13 still. And as you can imagine, it didn't take long for Wade to get addicted to some serious illegal substances, such as the white stuff that you put up your nose and the illegal substance that rhymes with the name Beth. These substances didn't do his mental health any favors. In fact, he developed a horrible temper. His delusions became even worse, and he was just out of control. At one point, he was even admitted to a mental institution, but as far as I could find, that didn't help him at all either. He was constantly in fights, and it continued this way throughout school, and the cops were called on him several times. But something I found very interesting was that when Wade was in his late teens, he suffered many serious head injuries. And they were all from different things. I think 2 were from car accidents and 2 were from sport injuries or something like that. But the reason why that stood out to me was because I know what he goes on to do, of course, and it made me think of infamous serial killers that also had serious head injuries as children, such as John Wayne Gacy and Richard Ramirez and even Jeffrey Dahmer. Those are the ones that are coming to mind, but there are more. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, around the same time, Wade also overdosed, and this really impacted his already fragile mind. But Wade finishes school, but after school, he basically just becomes a criminal. And he starts doing some petty crimes, but then he also starts doing some not so petty crimes. And the very long list of crimes that Wade committed in this period of time include robbery, theft, child cruelty, SA, burglary, and the list just goes on and on and on. So after school, he was just in and out of prison the whole time, but they were all short stints. And when he got out, he would literally just go back to doing the same old things. Around this time, another significant thing happens in Wade's life. He actually finds and connects with his biological father, Stephen Testaseca. And Wade, being a drug addict and a criminal, obviously saw this as an opportunity because he would constantly phone Stephen, his biological dad, for money. And remember Stephen Testaseca because he will come up again later in this case. But while Wade is so busy getting up to no good, he still manages to make time for some relationships. And just like he was in and out of prison the whole time, Wade was also in and out of relationships. In the one relationship, he actually ended up making his girlfriend pregnant, and she gave birth to a little girl. But as you can imagine, Wade has not really played a part in his daughter's life, and that child will not come up again in today's story. And this is probably the first time I will say this, but thank goodness that man didn't have anything to do with his daughter, because I think she's better for it. Wade was even in a relationship with a man at one point, and the reports all state that he was even abusive towards this man. Some reports even claim that he this man. And this was like the theme in all of Wade's relationships. He was so abusive and demeaning towards all of his partners. And unfortunately, his behavior just seems to escalate from here. Because in 2015, he met a girl at a party. The two of them seemed to hit it off, and they decided to head to Wade's car to smoke some green. But at one point, Wade just snapped and lost it, and he attacked this woman and SA'd her, and he took her phone and filmed the entire thing, which is absolutely sickening. He eventually lets her go, and this poor woman was brave enough to go straight to police and to report Wade and told them everything that he did to her. This actually ended up going to trial, and Wade ended up convincing the jury that it was all consensual and that she loved it rough, and he got away with it. And knowing what we know now about Wade Wilson, that infuriates me, because he could have been behind bars now. He should have been behind bars. And my heart just goes out to that young lady, because she did all the right things. She even had the evidence on her phone. He did it on her phone, not even on his own. And still, the jury decided to believe Wade. But this next part just was crazy to me. It just blew my mind. And just bear with me, because this is going to be like a case within a case. But at the end, you'll see how Wade Wilson is linked to this. Have you heard of the case of Mark Williams? Well, if you haven't, I'm going to give you a real quick rundown of what happened in that case, just so you can follow what I'm saying. So Mark Williams was married to a lady called Denise. And Mark had a best friend named Brian. And Brian was married to a lady who was Denise's friend. So these couples were close. They were double dating. They were spending a lot of time together. And over time, Denise and Brian, Mark's best friend, developed feelings for each other, and they started an affair. Eventually, Denise and Brian started plotting Mark's death because she wanted to get his life insurance, and Brian and Denise wanted to be together, of course. So Brian ends up Mark. He makes it look like this accident on a boat. They try and make it look like he was eaten by alligators or some nonsense like that. And they actually get away with this. And Denise gets the life insurance, and Brian goes and divorces his wife eventually. And then he marries Denise. Yes, some Jerry Springer stuff going on there. But anyway, moving on. But you see, of course, the marriage between Denise and Brian wasn't going very well at all, because Brian was extremely abusive to Denise, reportedly. And one day he even kidnapped her and threatened her life. And Denise was so petrified after this, she went and reported it to the police, which I think was really a dumbass move on her part, knowing what they did together. But anyway, she reported him to police. They arrested him for what he did to her. But now Brian was in prison. And who do you think was with Brian in prison? It was Wade Wilson. So while Brian is in prison, stories are coming out, and this story is starting to resurface, and there's a lot of speculation going on around the Mark Williams case and what happened to him. Now Brian is in prison and Denise is outside, and he's scared she's going to talk. And Wade goes up to Brian and offers to be a hitman. He actually says to him that he would not be in prison for long. He would get out one of these days, and when he gets out, he'll just kill Denise for him for a certain amount of money, which is so crazy if you think about it, because I was so deep into that case, but I never knew that Wade Wilson was a part of it. But actually, Wade didn't go on to do anything about it. But when Brian had to go to court, this all came out in court, and Wade Wilson was listed as a hitman, which is wild. But eventually Wade does get out of prison there, and of course he just goes back to his old ways. He hasn't learned a thing. He's not changing his life. In fact, once again, his behavior seems to escalate. And as he normally did, he quickly jumped into a relationship with a lady named Kelly Matthews. And in the beginning, Wade was treating Kelly so well. But there was just one problem. Kelly didn't know the real Wade Wilson. In fact, she didn't even know his name, because Wade told Kelly that his name was Stephen. And she didn't even know that he lived in a halfway house. But I'm going to insert a TikTok that Kelly Matthews made herself, where she talks about what Wade did to her.
So I think it's time to do a real story time. If you're from Florida or near Florida, or you have a TV and a news channel, you might have seen the Wade Wilson trial for a double murder. He was just found guilty, thank God, of killing Kristine Melton and Diane Ruiz. So I dated this man in February of the same year that he killed those two women. So this is us. I went to the news after all of this had happened to tell them about what he did to me. Obviously, he had no facial tattoos then. This is us again. I dated this man for a few months. He lived with me, and on my birthday, February 2019, he actually kidnapped me, like tied me up, bound and gagged me, threw me in the back of my car, and drove me to the Keys, which is like 3.5 hours from where I lived in Florida. I went to the police. You might have to pause to read it, but I did go to the police. I went to the police right after. I drove back from the Keys at 4 a.m., going like 100 miles an hour, trying to get someone to help me. This is where he bit my face. He bit me, he busted my lip open. I had ligature marks on my hands and knees and my neck. I had fingerprints on my neck. I had a severely busted lip. This is my lip. So all of these photos were taken by me or the police officers on their cell phones. I do have over 200 photos that they took at the hospital at what they called the Butterfly House when I had my interview, because I had to have a sexual assault kit done because I was sexually assaulted. But when I tried to pursue this, all of that disappeared. Everything from my trial was gone. My photos could no longer be found. I called the hospital and they said that they had given them to the police department, and the police department said, oh, the hospital has them, so you just need, you just need to contact them. No one found them. No one has them. I've never seen them, but I remember them being taken. I was in the hospital for several hours. I lost my job because they thought I was lying to them. So I don't know if it's because of his trial or not, but I could not access even like the affidavit or my story or anything. When I went to go look for it again, I have it all typed up from the day after, I believe. Here's another thing you might have to pause to read. So Detective Potter was the detective on the case. He told me that he went and interviewed Wade, who for the entirety of our relationship, he told me his name was Stephen. He wouldn't show me his license. I found out that Stephen was actually his middle name later. So Detective Potter told me that he went down to the Keys, did a DNA test, and spoke to Wade in person. And Wade told him that I was into that kind of thing, and that's why, like, I was tied up and stuff like that. I had to remind the detective that I had a busted face, that Wade had stolen my phone and sold it for crack while I was bound and gagged, tied up underneath a blanket in the back of my car. This man drove through a McDonald's while I was tied up in the back of my car, naked, bound and gagged. Literally, I had a shirt tied around my face. I had leggings in my mouth. My foot was broken because he slammed it in the door. So when I heard the trial of him doing that to Kristine Melton, tying her up with her own clothes, it brought back a lot of feelings for me. I hadn't spoken out about this as much. Lots of people know, and I've obviously talked to the news, but I haven't like posted a lot about it since it happened, because Wade would find ways to contact me while he was in jail. He would use other people's accounts, or he would call from other people's numbers. And the last time I spoke to him, I believe like last year or the year before, I told him I wanted nothing to do with him. I would see him at his trial date or when they put him to death, whatever. I wanted nothing to do with him, and he promised that he would see me later. So I was a little hesitant about like telling the whole world about this, because I was afraid that he was going to get out and come after me. I actually moved over an hour away from where I lived because I was just afraid that he was going to find me and try to kill me. His girlfriend after me, her friends had reached out to me to tell me that he was abusing her. So I spoke to her. I explained to her what he did to me and warned her, but he's charismatic. He's 6'5". He's a good looking dude. Well, he was. He's not anymore. So, you know, he's a smooth talker. He persuaded her to stay, and he almost did the same thing to her. He beat the crap out of her. He, like, tied her up and threw her out naked in the parking lot. Like, it's the fact that the police department failed me so severely by not even arresting this man on a suspicion after I had gone to the hospital with injuries and sexual assault and literally a knife in my car that he had used. He had cut my OnStar so that no one could find me if I did use it. Just like after he did all of that, he met up with a girl. He met up with a girl and handed me my keys back and left. So I drove home. I drove 100 miles an hour on I-95 hoping that I would get pulled over so that I could explain what happened, but I never got pulled over. So I went straight home to Palm Beach County. So, I mean, looking back, I should have found a police officer there, but it was 4 a.m. I didn't have a phone. I was 3 hours from home. I didn't know where I was. I knew how to get home because I had been in the Keys before. But had this detective actually done his job and arrested this man, I think these women would still be alive, because I would have testified against him for this. My whole family, all my friends, everyone would have stood up for this. And this detective basically said, you were into that kind of thing, so we can't really do anything about it. So that's my story. There's a lot more detail to what he did, and I will gladly share more detail. If there's any women out there that are scared to leave, please message me. I will always talk to you. I will help you the best I can. I'm always going to try to help women or even men leave abusive relationships. Wade actually dated a man after me and stabbed him. So it happens to men too. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will always be there to talk. But I'm going to share the video where he is found guilty. He does have a smirk on his face, and I'm hoping that for sentencing on the 20th that he gets the death penalty, and I will be there with a big sign saying bye. Anyway, thank you for listening.
This guy is really a piece of work, and she doesn't even go into much detail in that clip I just showed you about what he actually did to her, but it was horrific, okay? He stripped her naked, he SA'd her, and then he just threw her in the back and put a blanket over, and even went and bought substances, and then even went through a McDonald's drive-thru with her there in the back with only a blanket over her. Afterwards, he gives her keys back, because remember, he's doing all of this in her car. He gives the keys back to her and says, okay, cheers. I'm going to go have sex with someone else now. How sick can one man be? But I mean, at that point, she was just like, bye, good riddance. Please go. She did go and report this to the police, and the police actually brought him in and they questioned him, but he said that it was consensual. and that Kelly liked it rough. So he literally used the same excuse that he used before, and he got away with it once again. Wade then goes and jumps into a few more relationships, and it's the same story with most of these relationships. He treats everybody he's supposed to love like crap, and I think it's because he really doesn't know what love is. He only thinks of himself, and he sees these people as something that he can use because they can pay for his life and for his addiction and for his criminal activities. But in April of 2019, Wade would meet a woman who plays a very significant part in today's story, and that's Melissa Montanez. Everybody called Melissa Mila, so from here on out, I'm also going to refer to her as Mila. But her and Wade met, and they pretty much moved in together straight away. I mean, this man is a charmer. He charmed the ladies, and let's get real, he is pretty good looking, so it wasn't hard for him to do that. But the difference with Mila was that Wade didn't even bother to hide his nasty habits from her. He pretty much abused her from day one. Mila actually had him arrested many times, and the one night when they were having another argument, Wade just snapped, and he brutally attacked her, and he brutally SA'd her in every single way imaginable. And I can't say exactly how because of YouTube policies. I will get flagged, but I'm sure you understand what I mean when I say in every way possible he SA'd her, which is so disturbing and so disgusting. But he managed to charm his way out of that. He managed to charm Mila even after that and convince her to drop the charges. This man is a master manipulator, and once Mila dropped the charges, Wade was released from prison in October of 2019, unfortunately, and he and Mila basically just picked up where they left off and they got back together. So only a few days after his release, Wade, Mila, and Mila's friend Amy head over to a pub called The Buddha, and they are having a great time, just having a few drinks. And Wade meets a man called Jason, and he instantly befriends this guy, and they spend a lot of the night together. But at one point, Amy and Mila are over it and they want to go home. But then Wade comes over with his new friend Jason, and he is trying to convince Mila and Amy to go back to Jason's place with him. And Mila didn't want to go because, first of all, this is a stranger. Wade only met him that night, and Amy and Mila didn't know him at all. And when they refused to go with Wade to Jason's house, Wade got really angry. He was so furious. But the problem was that they went there in Mila's car to the Buddha, but Wade had her keys in his pocket. And he was refusing to give her keys back to her unless she agreed that her and Amy would go with him to Jason's place. But Mila was sticking to it, and she told him no, she's not going. And eventually she just thought, whatever, keep the keys. She got her and Amy an Uber, and they went home. By now, it was already past 12 a.m., and it was the 6th of October 2019. But Wade and Jason didn't leave the bar straight away. They stayed a bit, they had a few more drinks. And this is when Wade met a beautiful 35-year-old woman named Kristine Melton. Wade immediately starts to flirt with Kristine, and he gives her a fake name. I think it was something along the lines of Junior or something stupid. And he then convinces Kristine and her friend Stephanie to go back to Jason's house with him. Wade then gives his new friend, who he just met that evening, Jason, the keys to Mila's car to drive all of them back to his place. And once at Jason's house, the party continues, and eventually Kristine and Wade go into the bedroom to have sex. But the next morning early, Jason woke up, and for some reason, I don't know why, he wanted everybody out of his house. So Wade, trying to act like a gentleman, offers to drive Kristine and her friend Stephanie home. And when I heard this, I was just thinking for one moment, like, he's literally offering to drive the girl that he just cheated on his girlfriend with home in his girlfriend's car. I mean, the audacity of this man is beyond me. But there was only one problem. Wade couldn't seem to get the car to drive. He didn't know why. He couldn't figure it out. He thought there was something wrong with the car. But meanwhile, it's because he's a dumbass. Because Mila's car was a manual and Wade only knew how to drive an automatic. And I'm just thinking, wow. This is the guy that the girls are going crazy over, but I'm just going to move on. So he can't drive the car. He actually ends up phoning an Uber for himself, Kristine, and her friend Stephanie, and he goes back home with them to Kristine's place. Once they get there, Stephanie actually says that she needs to go home, and she leaves. So it was just Wade and Kristine left at her place. But these two were exhausted. I mean, they didn't get a lot of sleep. So they decided it would be a great idea to go to the bedroom and just take a nap and catch up on some sleep. But the only one who would fall asleep was Kristine. Wade was still wide awake. I don't know what made Wade decide to do what he would do next, but it is insane because Kristine was literally just lying there sleeping. He was watching her, and then he decided to climb on top of her, and he choked her. He strangled her until she was no longer breathing. Wade then was trying to figure out what he was going to do, where he was going to put her body, all of that. And then he realized that he had lost his phone the night before. So he decided to steal Kristine's phone, but he had to unlock it. So he took her phone to her face to unlock her screen, which is so disturbing. But now he still had no idea what to do with Kristine's body. And I mean, I'm just thinking this guy is so dumb because people saw him with Kristine. Stephanie knew that he was there, Kristine's friend. But I don't know, it feels to me sometimes like criminals. I'm glad that they don't think this far so they can get caught. But still, it's just, I'm thinking, you are so dumb? Really? But now he's in her house, he's taken her phone, and then he decides he's going to try and carry her body. But he can't seem to lift her. She's too heavy for him. I'm not saying she's overweight because she wasn't. It was just dead weight. It was hard for him to lift it. So he decided he was just going to leave the body there. But then he goes and he decides that he's going to steal Kristine's car. And then he just goes on to do more crazy things from here. He's trying to phone Mila, you know, the girl he cheated on with the girl he just murdered. He's trying to phone her from Kristine's phone. But Mila is asleep at this time, so she's missing all of his calls. Eventually, she wakes up and she sees this unknown number trying to phone her, and she answers the phone. She then realizes that it's Wade on the phone, and she is furious for good reason because he's got her car. And by the way, this was a brand new car she had bought. She loved this car. It was a Hellcat, and she was obsessed with it. And now Wade had her car and he was on some crazy binge, and now he was phoning her from a number that she didn't even know. But Wade assured her that everything was fine, her car was fine, and that he was on his way to her in her car. But that was a lie because he was not in Mila's car. He was actually in Kristine's car, which was a black Nissan Versa. Mila asked Wade to meet her at her spa, which was called Mila's Spa. Amy went with Mila down to the spa, and they were surprised to see that Wade was already there waiting for them, but he wasn't in Mila's car. He was in that black Nissan Versa. So obviously the first thing Mila's thinking, she's so worried about her car because where the hell is her car and whose car is that? So Mila approaches Wade and he rolls down the window and he tells her, get in the car. And she refuses, and then Wade just lunges at her through the window and tries to pull her through the window, which is insane. But Mila said she had a bad feeling. She knew she had to stay out of that car. She had a feeling that if she got in that car, that she would never ever see the light of another day. Mila was actually stiffening her body, and she said she went into like a plank pose to make it difficult for Wade to pull her into the car. But this just made Wade more angry, and he jumped out of the car, without switching the car off to attack Mila, and the car ends up rolling forward and bumping into a Kia that was in the parking lot. By now, a small crowd were forming and many people were witnessing how Wade was attacking Mila. He was pulling out her extensions, he was punching her, he was slapping her. I mean, it was a horrible scene, and Amy was too scared to get out the car and to intervene, but she phoned 911. And I'm just wondering, when I read this, I was like, why did no one intervene here? Why didn't everybody come together? Like, how can you watch that and not do something? But perhaps someone did and we just don't know about it. I don't know exactly what happened there. All I know is from the research that I did, it said that a crowd formed and people were witnessing this. And I think I even read somewhere that someone took a video of it. And I'm thinking, you can take a video of it, but you can't help this poor girl. But I don't even know if that's true, but still, if people were watching and they didn't jump in to help her, then I don't know what's wrong with this world. But soon Wade realized that people were looking at this. People were watching him and witnessing what he was doing to Mila. So he started dragging Mila towards her spa. He wanted to get her alone. And I think he wanted to because he wanted to do what he did to Kristine. He wanted to do that to Mila too. But Mila was determined not to go into that spa with him, even though he was dragging her. He went past a staircase that was just in front of her door, the door to her spa, and she grabbed onto the railing of that staircase, and she was holding onto it, she said, for dear life, because she knew that if he got her in that spa, that she would never come out again. And while she's holding onto this railing, Wade is punching her. I think he actually broke her nose, and she was just holding on because she knew she couldn't let go. Her life depended on it. And at this point, Mila was even begging him. She was pleading with him. She was making him promises. She was trying to just reason with him, and she was trying to stall for time. But then luckily, the sirens came closer and Wade heard them, and he knew that they must have been for him. And just like the coward that he is, he jumps into Kristine's car and he takes off. So police arrive at the scene, but Wade is gone. But they take statements from Amy and from Mila and from everybody who saw what happened. But you must be wondering, what about Wade? Where did he go? You see, the police were still searching for him because Amy had given them a description of the car that Wade was in, which was the black Nissan Versa. But Wade was gone. Nobody could find him. And unfortunately, this is where today's story gets even worse. You see, 43-year-old Diane Ruiz, a mother of two and also happily engaged, was just walking to work that day, when all of a sudden a man pulled up next to her and asked her for some direction. So Diane, being a really nice lady, got into the car and thought she was going to show this man exactly where he needed to go. And who knows, perhaps she thought this would save her like a long distance of walking too. I don't know. But Diane was wrong because she had gotten into the car with Wade Wilson. And as soon as she got into the car, Wade strangled her until he thought she was no longer alive. This man then drives to an empty parking lot to dump Diane's body like a piece of trash. But when he pulls her out of the car, he realizes that she's not dead. This monster then decides that he was going to run over her body, not once, not twice, but several times. And sadly, that is how Wade Wilson murdered Diane Ruiz. Wade then drove to a restaurant and sat in the parking lot shirtless. While there, he's still trying to phone Mila, but she's not answering. Eventually, he sends her a text saying that if she answers, he will tell her where her car is. So Mila answered, but she also tipped off the police and told them where Wade was. Unfortunately, Mila's car wasn't where Wade said it was. Of course it wasn't. But her and Amy ended up finding it anyway. An officer immediately rushed to the location that Mila gave them, and there, in the parking lot of Joe's Crab Shack, they found Wade Wilson sitting in the black Nissan Versa.
How you doing? What's going on, man? You're waiting on your girlfriend? Oh, okay. That's no problem. No, I got a call. Somebody was sitting in their car and everything like that. So. Oh, okay. She's on her way now. L41 to bike 5. ETA? Copy, I'm 1012. I'll explain to you when my partner gets here, okay? Yeah. How about this morning? Say again? Yeah, I can do that, but I'm just waiting for my partner to get here. Yeah, absolutely. And here's what's going to happen. Is the car running? Shut the car off for me. It's off. I'm going to detain you until I figure out what exactly is going on. Wait, you don't have any trouble for me? Okay? Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to have you step out of the car, and I'm going to detain you. Not arrest. Detain you right now. Okay? And I can't have any problems. You understand me? All right. What's that? Bike 5, I'm at Joe's Crab Shack in the parking lot. I will. I give you my word. No. I have to detain you. By our procedures, I have to detain you. Because of the battery this morning. There wasn't any battery? I will. No. Just relax. Let me see the keys to the car. Let me see the keys to the car. Keys. Keys. Wait, we're not going to have any problems. Just give me the keys to the car. Wait. Just wait till my partner gets here. L41, gonna need a couple more units. Don't go anywhere. Hey. Don't do it. He's in his car, attempting to take off. Back up. Yes, please. He's taking off, Fort Myers. Just ran a stop sign going up towards McGregor.
And yes, Wade gets away. And I don't mean to be mean to this officer, but it really looks like he's scared of Wade. I don't know why he was just like, hands in there and get out the car or whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't know what the protocol is. Or maybe he thought, okay, backup is so close, I might as well just wait to keep it safe. I don't know. I was just thinking, come on. I mean, I'm sure he could have taken Wade. I'm sure he's got like a weapon on him. Is there nothing he could have done? But what do I know? I don't know. But Wade gets away. Wade then drives to a business in Cape Coral where he knows the owner, Josh. And at this point, Wade is desperate. And he goes in there and he's talking to Josh and he's begging him for money because he says he needs to get out of town. But when Josh is a bit hesitant, Wade just says to him that he had killed people. Josh sort of made it seem like he was going to help Wade, but meanwhile, he was just excusing himself and he actually went and phoned 911.
911, what is your emergency?
I have a very unstable man that's, I guess, wanted at my office, Hancock Bridge Parkway. He's got tattoos, he's short-lived, he's very
you're calling from.
239.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
The gentleman's name is Wade something. I have no idea. I went back to my office, my place of business there, and he was there. He was just a cordial friend of a friend associate. He just did something bad, I guess, and was running from somebody, but I need to get him out of my place. And he's saying he's done all these crazy things to somebody and has a stolen car there. It's very odd. Very, very odd.
Unfortunately, by the time the police arrived, Wade was already gone. And it was also around this time that Diane Ruiz was reported missing after failing to show up for work. So now Wade is still on the run and police are searching for him. And around this time is also when police discover the bodies of Diane Ruiz and Kristine Melton. And they were able to put the puzzle pieces together and to link those two to Wade Wilson. So police go and they phone anybody and everybody that they knew were connected to Wade in some way, and this included his biological father, Stephen Testaseca. Police were asking them that if Wade contacts you, please let us know because we are looking for him. He is in some serious trouble, and this was the best thing that they could have done. Turns out Wade had made contact with his dad, Stephen. Initially, in the first call, Stephen said that Wade told him he was a killer and he did things to two people. Stephen said there were no specifics and he thought this was just like a Wade being Wade and spinning a story for some reason for like money or something along those lines, and he didn't take him seriously. But what do you know? Wade phoned his dad Stephen again later that evening and confessed to everything. And this time he went into so much detail. And I could only imagine that this must have been incredibly difficult for Stephen to do, but he turned his son into the police.
Prior to him telling you these details, how did you feel about turning him in to law enforcement?
I initially wanted to help him.
Okay. Did you feel conflicted about giving him over to law enforcement initially?
Yes, ma'am.
At some point when you're talking with him, did that feeling change?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I just thought, what if that was my mom or my daughter or sister or wife? I would want somebody to do that.
And did you have additional concerns of what might happen if you didn't turn him into law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that, sir?
He would have done it again.
Now, after he's telling you all these details, do you know where he's at when he's telling you these things?
I just knew he was in a house that he broke into when he was running from the police.
And a lot of people are saying some really horrible things about this dad, Stephen, online. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hate on this man. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to give your child up, although it is the right thing to do. But hey, this man, Stephen, he did the right thing at the end of the day, and he gave Wade Wilson up to the police. But have a listen to what Wade told his dad in that second phone call.
When he called back at 10, did he go into more details about what he had told you earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with the first girl. If you could tell the jurors, what did he tell you?
He just said he met a girl at a bar. They went back to her house, hung out for a little bit, and then she fell asleep.
What did he say happened after she fell asleep?
He said he got on top of her and choked her.
What name did he call her? Did he refer to her in a derogatory term?
He said, I choked that bitch.
Okay. And what did he say he did after he choked her?
He said he stayed in the house for a little while, and then he rolled her up and was going to try to put her in her trunk, but he couldn't lift her.
Did he say why he was unable to put her in her trunk?
He said that he felt like rigor mortis had started to set in.
And does rigor mortis make your body stiff? You didn't know?
I think so. Yeah.
So he just told you that that was the reason that he couldn't lift her and get her into her trunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And when he said her trunk, it was the trunk of her car he was going to put her in?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did he tell you he did when he couldn't get her body into her own trunk?
He left her there and took her car.
What did he say about the second girl?
He said he saw her walking down the street and stopped and asked her for directions. And she got in the car with him.
What did he say happened once she got in the car with him?
He said he reached over and choked her.
And did he tell you that he choked her while he was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what did he say happened after he choked her?
He said he was looking for a place to put her body.
Did he find a place where he eventually dumped her body?
Yes, ma'am.
What did he tell you about the situation when he got to the place where he was going to dump her body?
He said that he pulled her out of the car and realized that she was still breathing.
So what did he tell you he did when he realized she's still breathing?
He said he got back in the car and ran her over until she looked like spaghetti.
Until she looked like spaghetti. Monster. That's the only word you can call this human. He is a monster. Stephen actually made Wade think that he was going to help him. He told him that he needed the address where Wade was because he was going to send him an Uber. And Wade was actually hiding out in a home that he had broken into. But instead of sending the Uber, Stephen actually gave that address up to the police. And the police immediately went there on the 8th of October 2019 and they arrested Wade. Wade was taken to Lee County Jail, and while he was there, he phoned Mila from prison and reportedly confessed everything to her too. Mila said that Wade said the reason he did it was because he was on substances that messed him up and he just felt like killing those two women. He just felt like it. Wade was held in custody without bail while awaiting his trial and was charged with burglary, larceny, and damaging property, battery, and 2 counts of first-degree murder. Almost exactly a year later, Wade would actually try and escape from prison along with a fellow inmate.
The man accused of murdering 2 women in Cape Coral just tried to escape from jail, but Wade Wilson didn't get too far. Thanks for watching NBC2. I'm Peter Bush.
And I'm Kelly Burns. Wilson is accused of 2 brutal murders in Cape Coral. Almost a year ago to the day, police say Wilson went on a drug-fueled killing spree, murdering 2 women in 48 hours. Kristine Melton on the left and Diane Ruiz closest to me. Tonight, Wilson, along with his cellmate Joseph Katz, are even more trouble. Reports say they tried to smash through a window and break out of jail. NBC2's Ashley Dyer is live at the jail right now on Ortez Avenue, showing us how deputies caught the pair.
Wade Wilson is accused of viciously murdering Ruiz and Melton last October. Less than a year later, he faces new charges. Deputies say last night Wilson tried to break out of the jail through a window. Last night, Wade Wilson, who faces 2 first-degree murder charges, and his cellmate Joseph Katz tried to pull a get-out-of-jail-free card.
The window in particular in question, they started to remove some of the weather stripping, okay, and they started to work on that window with a couple of bolts.
You can see the damage in the bottom right corner.
This just proves that he's not a good person.
Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marcino says the men plan to use a window as their escape route. The sheriff calling it a failed attempt from the start.
There was no way to get through that window physically, even if it was open, okay? Furthermore, we have a series of layers after that that they would have to penetrate to get out, and that's not happening.
In addition to the 2 first-degree murder charges that Wilson faces, he and Katz now also face attempt to escape a prison and criminal mischief charges.
What an idiot. Wade's trial started on the 1st of June this year of 2024, and he shocked the world with his new look. He had gotten tattoos in prison over the years since the arrest in 2019. I mean, look at this, and I would bet it's these tattoos that have the woman running wild, because it looks pretty badass, I won't lie, but girls, this is not husband material, this is not boyfriend material, this is not friend material, in fact, this is not even acquaintance material. You don't want to know this person. But as you can see, he has the Joker smile tattooed on his face, and even has a swastika tattooed on him, which says a lot. With all the evidence against him and everyone who testified, there was no way out for Wade. His ex Mila was extremely brave and testified against him, and you heard what his dad testified earlier in this video. Wade was found guilty and was sentenced to death. Do I agree with that sentence? Hell yes. Watching the trial just infuriated me. As I watched Wade, he really didn't seem to show any remorse for his despicable actions. He came across as arrogant, and I really think he is such a clown and just an idiot, for lack of a better word. I believe he is exactly where he needs to be and probably should have been there a long time ago. I would like to extend my condolences to Diane Ruiz and Kristine Melton's families. I truly hope that they will find the strength to cope with what this monster did to their loved ones. I also truly hope that Mila will find a man that treats her like a princess and that she never ends up dating a man like that ever again. But what do you think about Wade Wilson, and what do you think about the sentence that he got? Let me know in the comment section down below. And then also don't forget to turn on your bell notification buttons, because I will be uploading another Wade Wilson video, but this time we'll go over the interrogation, and you don't want to miss that because it is crazy and it'll just show you exactly what type of person Wade Wilson really is. But thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.